Donald Trump's presidency in the United States has resulted in the most profound changes to the international political and economic landscape in the previous century. Donald Trump embarked on this route with the Make America Great Again policy, which targets both countries near him and actors he perceives as his adversaries. On February 1, 2025, President Trump signed 3 executive orders directing the United States to impose additional tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China, which will go into effect on February 4, 2025. The executive orders imposed an extra 25% ad valorem duty on Canadian and Mexican imports, as well as a 10% tariff on Chinese goods. These duties would apply to all imports, with the exception of Canadian energy resource exports, which would suffer a 10% levy. The tariffs would have applied to items put into or withdrawn from storage for consumption on or after February 4, 2025, at 0001 Eastern Standard Time. Goods en route to the United States were free from tariffs the day before Trump announced his executive orders. Experts on global economic balances expressed alarm about the tariffs placed on Canada and Mexico. Tariffs on China were viewed as the foundation of U.S. President Donald Trump's projected policy. In other respects, it was unsurprising that Trump targeted Beijing through economic means. Additional duties on Chinese goods were levied at 10% ad valorem. The increased tariffs will be in addition to any levies, fines, charges, deductions, and costs levied upon specified goods. The new duties appear to apply solely to items labeled as originating in the People's Republic of China. The executive directive makes no mention of tariffs being imposed on products from Hong Kong or Macau. This, of course, did not go well with China. Officials in Beijing have maintained that U.S. President Donald Trump is not truly targeting China, but the global economy. According to experts, Trump was attempting to contain China's burgeoning superpower position. Donald Trump has not just Beijing on his radar, but also the Moscow government, which he regards as an ally of China. The Russian wing was most likely viewed as a significant risk element by the U.S. president. Trump was particularly concerned about the situation in Ukraine. The EU and U.S. sanctions on Russia were already putting pressure on Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin. But Donald Trump wanted to do more to undermine Russia and China's joint alliance. Donald Trump has used non-tariff methods to dissuade China and Russia. But beyond the tax trump card, what other actions did Trump take to keep Russia and China out of the Latin American market? How would these actions position the United States ahead of both countries? Will China, with the help of Russia, be able to counteract U.S. President Donald Trump's competitive challenge in Latin America? We will find the answers to all of these essential issues together. We will examine how the triangle of the United States, China, and Russia shapes world economic and political balances, as well as how Latin American nations participate in this process. But first, please remember to subscribe to our channel, enable alerts, and like us to remain up to date on our material. Let's get started. First, let's look at U.S. President Donald Trump's ambitions beyond the tariffs on China. U.S. President Donald Trump and his administration have recently focused their attention on Latin America. The Trump administration has prioritized the Panama Canal. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Panamanian President José Raúl Mulino to discuss managing the Panama Canal. Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned Panamanian President José Raúl Mulino of potential reprisal from Washington if U.S. President Donald Trump does not restrict China's control over the Panama Canal. José Raúl Mulino described his discussion with Marco Rubio as friendly and pleasant, noting that Rubio made no genuine threats to reclaim the canal or use force. Rubio did, however, remind Mulino that Trump feels China's presence in the canal zone may violate an agreement that resulted in the United States turning up the waterway to Panama in 1999. The agreement guaranteed that the canal built by the United States would remain neutral indefinitely. Secretary Rubio stated unequivocally that the current situation is intolerable and that, unless rapid improvements are made, the United States would be required to take the appropriate steps to preserve its rights under the treaty, according to the U.S. State Department's meeting report. Mulino did not imply that he saw a serious challenge to the treaty's legitimacy. Panama's president has stated that his country would not extend its participation in China's Belt and Road Initiative once the present deal expires. The program, which sponsors infrastructure projects throughout the world, has been attacked for putting developing nations in debt to China. By saying that he would not renegotiate the pact that has been the subject of considerable criticism, the Panamanian recognized that he would not violate U.S. policy. Rubio then explored the canal after nightfall with its director, Ricardo Vasquez. Vasquez stated that the waterway would remain under Panama's control and would be available to all countries. The U.S. diplomat's visit coincides with increased worries about China's influence over global trade networks. Last week, he cautioned that Chinese-operated port facilities at both ends of the canal expose the waterway to political pressure from Beijing. Despite Mulino's firm stance that Panama would not negotiate over ownership, Rubio has made it obvious that Trump wants to reclaim control of the canal. Speculation persists that the government may seek a compromise, including removing Hong Kong-based Hutchison Ports from its involvement in canal operations. The corporation was granted a 25-year no-bid extension to manage operations, but an ongoing audit may result in a re-tendering procedure. It is unclear if Trump would be happy with transferring canal operations to a U.S. or European corporation, or if his government would want more influence over canal management. Trump's threats to reclaim the Panama Canal, a key maritime commerce corridor, on the basis that it charges exorbitant fees to the United States, have provoked outrage in the country that has managed the canal for more than a quarter of a century. Panama's president, José Raúl Mulino, denied what Trump stated. José Raúl Mulino stated that the Panama Canal belongs to them. Panama's stance had shifted. This time, they, not China, had a voice in the region. However, these events, which occurred only a few days after the Republican Party began its second term, hampered the new administration's mission of combating the Russian, Chinese, and Iranian forces that were gaining traction in Latin America. Many Latin American and American officials working in the region feel that the region is becoming a more vital source of rivalry for world powers, and that the incoming U.S. administration is fully aware of this. For these reasons, the new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the highest-ranking Hispanic American official in U.S. history, has picked Central America and the Caribbean for his first tour of duty, putting Latin America at the center of the new administration's foreign policy priorities. Addressing the Royal United Services Institute think tank in London, Baroness Jennifer Chapman, the UK Parliamentary Undersecretary of State for Latin America and the Caribbean, said she was reviewing the policy of U.S. allies. The first few days of the presidency saw a quick crackdown on immigration, with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency arresting thousands. Many of those targeted by the administration's immigration crackdown are unauthorized nationals from Latin American countries. Brian Fonseca, director of the JACD, Gordon Institute for Public Policy at Florida International University, believes this will have an impact on the United States-Latin American relationship. When the president returned to the Oval Office this month, he issued an executive order labeling Mexican drug cartels and other Latin American criminal gangs as terrorist organizations. Baroness Jennifer Chapman, the UK Parliamentary Undersecretary of State for Latin America and the Caribbean, stated that while British officials will not always agree on the specifics of Trump's new agenda, she believes they should continue to engage in close dialogue with the United States to achieve common goals. Baroness Jennifer Chapman also stated that nations such as the United Kingdom and the United States should comprehend why so many Latin American countries are interested in business connections with China. China is devoting resources to increasing its influence in Latin America, particularly its economic might. According to officials and academics, Russia is growing its cultural footprint throughout the area, while Iran is tightening its grip wherever possible. Many think that the United States has overlooked Latin America in recent years, which some view as a cause to turn to China. This has also granted Russia a zone of influence in Latin America. According to Álvaro Méndez, head of the Global South Unit at the London School of Economics, the United States had set too low a threshold, and China simply needed to perform a bit better to get in. We can observe that the region is far from homogeneous. In general, many nations in the area are afflicted by the illegal drug trade, weakened state institutions, and the devastation wrought by organized crime. Some nations, like Venezuela, are criticized by the U.S. as undemocratic yet welcomed by Washington's adversaries. Others, such as Mexico and Chile, are considered close allies by the United States. However, the State Department has referred to Santiago as one of Latin America's strongest allies and a leader in promoting respect for the rule of law, while Chilean Defense Minister Maya Fernandez proposed greater defense relations with China during a recent visit to Beijing. But does China truly want to throw a shadow over the United States? The late last year completion of a vast new port in Chanca, just north of Lima, was viewed as a step towards cementing China's presence in Latin America. The port is operated by China's state-owned Costco Shipping, and additional Chinese infrastructure is projected to appear on the South American continent. Trump has asserted that China controls the Panama Canal, which both Panama and China deny. According to analysts, Chinese influence through the Panama Canal is helping to undermine U.S. strength in the area. However, Donald Trump's determination to abolish this, as well as his ambitions to control the Panama Canal, pose significant challenges to China and Russia's future strategy. Russia's attempts to undermine U.S. influence in Panama mirror China's efforts to strengthen its position in the area. Moscow had a message for new U.S. President Donald Trump in this respect. The Moscow leadership urged Trump that he should not consider seizing control of the Panama Canal. In a statement, the Russian Foreign Ministry stated that the Panama Canal is legally owned by Panama and cautioned the U.S. not to attempt to reclaim it by military or economic pressure. During the anticipated meetings between Panamanian authorities and U.S. President Donald Trump over the ownership of the Panama Canal, North Korea spoke out after Russia. North Korea has voiced its first public criticism of the Trump administration, blasting Rubio's labeling of the country as a rogue state. The North Korean Foreign Ministry stated that the words and actions of the person in command of U.S. foreign policy reinforced the U.S.'s unaltered attitude toward the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The comment appeared to relate to Rubio's statements, in which he described North Korea and Iran as rogue governments when addressing foreign policy goals. While the United States has long labeled North Korea as a rogue state, Pyongyang's reply hinted that Trump will continue to be hostile with Washington, despite his recent reconciliation with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. In an interview, Trump hailed Kim as a clever man and signaled a desire to begin talks. When asked if he planned to call Kim again, Trump responded yes. However, North Korea's recent reply to the Panama Canal problem, which is consistent with Russia's policy, has put an end to any possibility of good ties between Trump and Kim Jong-un. In conclusion, U.S. President Donald Trump's approach to Latin America following his tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China has indeed set the stage for competition on the global stage. The fact that Russia and North Korea are concerned about Donald Trump's targeting of China via the Panama Canal provides crucial insights into how things will unfold in the area. According to analysts, Russia and China's influence in Latin America will decline, while the United States will boost its control efforts in the area. In the following days, we will see which scenario plays out and which side dominates Latin America and even the world economy. Thank you for watching.